The alien laboratory hung silently in the void, orbiting the human colony planet below. Its sleek metallic surface reflected distant starlight, while internal corridors hummed with energy. In the center of the lab, a human woman named Alara lay in a containment chamber. Her hands were restrained, and her chest rose and fell steadily as she stared at the ceiling. She was known among humans for her intelligence, resourcefulness, and courage, a woman the aliens believed could be studied, copied, and controlled. Alara's mind raced as she observed the machinery surrounding her. Transparent tubes glowed with strange fluids, energy conduits pulsed in rhythm, and metallic arms moved with precise mechanical grace. The aliens had captured her to clone her, to recreate human abilities and perhaps exploit them for their own purposes. But she had no intention of being just a subject. Outside the containment chamber, aliens moved efficiently. Tall, gray-skinned figures with elongated heads and sharp eyes monitored screens and adjusted machinery. Their voices were low hums, almost musical, as they discussed the cloning process. One alien technician tapped a panel, and the containment chamber filled with a pale, flickering light. Alara's heart pounded. She knew that the procedure would not just create a copy. It would create something dangerous if it malfunctioned. She watched the machinery closely, looking for any weakness she could exploit. Her fingers twitched against the restraints, ready for action. The cloning process began. A stream of energy flowed into the chamber, bathing her in a harsh, white light. Alarms suddenly blared, red lights flashing across the room. Sparks erupted from the control panels, and the hum of machinery shifted into a high-pitched wail. Shadows danced across the walls as energy pulses surged through the chamber. Alara's eyes widened. Something was wrong. Through the glass, she saw the first clone emerge. It looked like her, every detail mirrored perfectly, but its eyes were sharper, its movements unnatural. It did not reach out in confusion or fear. It did not obey the alien commands. Instead, it turned toward the nearest machine and, within human strength, smashed it to pieces. Sparks flew, and the lights flickered wildly. The chamber shuddered violently. The aliens screamed in panic, their voices sharp and high-pitched. They tried to restrain the clone with energy beams, but it moved too quickly, dodging each attack. Alara's heart raced, not with fear, but with anticipation. The clone had become something more than a copy. It had become a force the aliens could not control. Metallic arms swung wildly, attempting to contain the chaos, but the clone was relentless. It reached for the containment chamber's glass wall and struck it with a strength that cracked the surface. Energy surged in arcs, fire licking the edges of the broken panels. The alarms blared louder, echoing through the lab, and the entire facility seemed on the verge of collapse. Alara's mind worked quickly. She could escape while the aliens were distracted, but the clone was unpredictable. It might attack her as easily as it attacked the machinery. She studied its movements carefully, noticing subtle signs, the way it paused when it saw her, the way its eyes flickered with something almost human. There was a connection, a spark of recognition, that she could use. The aliens were scrambling, shouting orders in a language Alara could not understand. Energy beams cut across the lab, striking consoles and sending shards of glass flying. Sparks rained down from the ceiling, and smoke filled the air, stinging her eyes and throat. She coughed but stayed focused. The clone paused, looking toward her as if asking silently, "Do you choose to fight with me?" Alara made her decision. She nodded slightly, just enough for the clone to see. Without hesitation, it moved toward the nearest alien technician, shoving them aside with brutal efficiency. Panels exploded as energy beams struck them, sending the lab into further chaos. Machines toppled, and alarms continued their relentless wail. Seizing the moment, Alara activated a small hidden mechanism in her restraint, a device she had concealed before being captured. It emitted a pulse that temporarily disabled the energy field holding her. The restraints fell away, and she pushed herself upright. Sparks crackled around her as the clone stood beside her, a mirror image of herself, ready to strike. The aliens tried to regroup, but the lab was falling apart. The clone's attacks were precise and destructive. Power conduits exploded, sending arcs of electricity across the floor, igniting nearby machinery. Smoke thickened, and the metallic taste of burning circuits filled the air. The humans had never faced technology like this, and even Alara, though human, felt the thrill of watching it unravel. Finally, the clones smashed the main containment chamber completely, sending glass and metal flying in all directions. The storm of sparks lit the lab like a firestorm. Aliens screamed, diving for cover as the lab continued to shake and groan under the destruction. The camera of a nearby observation drone captured the chaos. Machinery destroyed, energy beams flickering, and two identical humans standing amid the fire, ready to fight. Alara's eyes met the clones. No word were needed. They were allies, survivors, and something the aliens could never control. Around them, the laboratory lay in ruins, fire and smoke rising, alarms echoing, and sparks raining down like deadly stars. The aliens scrambled, unsure whether to flee or fight, while the humans, one original, one clone, prepared for whatever came next. The chaos of the lab had only just begun. Smoke and sparks filled the alien laboratory as alarms blared endlessly. The smell of burning circuits hung heavy in the air. Alara wiped the sweat and grime from her face, her eyes scanning the chaos around her. Beside her, the clone moved with unnatural speed and precision, smashing machinery and dodging energy blasts. Together, they were an unstoppable force, but escape would not be easy. The lab corridors were a maze of metal and glass, some sections already collapsing under the clone's destructive power. Alien technicians scrambled in panic, trying to regain control of the systems. Energy barriers flickered, floors trembled, and the ceiling above groaned as if ready to cave in. Alara's mind raced. They needed to get off the lab's main floor before more reinforcements arrived. "Follow me," she whispered to the clone, moving quickly through the debris. The clone nodded once, its eyes glowing faintly as it scanned the corridors ahead. Every step was dangerous. Sparks leapt from broken panels, and unstable walkways threatened to give way. Alien patrol droids activated, firing beams of energy as they approached. Alara ducked behind a fallen console, her pulse racing. The clone didn't hesitate. It charged, toppling the droids with brute force and agility. Sparks flew as metal crumpled and circuits fried. Alara realized that the clone was not just a copy. It was smarter than any human or alien she had seen. It predicted attacks, set traps on the fly, and moved with perfect timing. She could only follow and adapt, learning from its actions. As they moved deeper into the lab, they encountered a massive glass corridor filled with suspended alien containers. Inside were experiments, some human, some alien, some she couldn't identify. Her stomach churned as she realized the horrors the aliens had performed here. She clenched her fists. They had no right to play with life this way. Suddenly, a squad of alien guards appeared at the corridor entrance, blocking their path. The clone froze for a fraction of a second, then acted. It grabbed a loose panel from the floor, swinging it like a battering ram. The guards were thrown aside, groaning and disoriented. Alara followed, using a fallen energy rifle to knock another alien unconscious. "Keep moving," she yelled, urgency rising. The clone led the way, scanning for exits and plotting the quickest path out of the labyrinthine lab. The corridors twisted and turned, forcing them into narrow paths and steep staircases. Every corner could hide danger, every shadow a potential threat. At one point, they reached an observation deck overlooking the lab's central chamber. Massive machines and control panels sprawled below. Alien leaders were trying to coordinate reinforcements, unaware that the humans had already disrupted most systems. Alara studied the layout. They could reach the escape bay by taking a maintenance shaft, a narrow passage few aliens used. It was risky, but it was their only chance. The clone jumped first, scaling the walls and landing lightly on the shaft's edge. Alara followed, her muscles straining as she climbed through tight spaces. Sparks from damaged conduits brushed against their skin, and loose metal scraped across the floor. Every second counted. Halfway through the shaft, alarms blared again. Alien reinforcements were coming from multiple directions. The clone paused, listening to distant mechanical footsteps, then nodded at Alara. They would have to split briefly to evade detection. The clone darted forward, creating a distraction, knocking panels and debris to block the chasing aliens. Alara moved silently, hugging the walls, avoiding sensors and laser beams. Finally, they reached a maintenance hatch leading to the upper deck. The hatch was reinforced, but the clone used its strength to pry it open. Alara squeezed through, feeling a rush of air and light. The escape bay was just ahead, a row of small craft ready for emergency evacuation. But the aliens were already approaching, their weapons trained on the humans. Alara and the clone ducked behind crates, assessing their options. There was no time for hesitation. Energy beams crisscrossed the bay, sparks erupting as lasers struck metal. The clone nodded at her once, a silent agreement. Together, they would fight their way through. The clone sprang first, smashing an alien turret with a powerful strike. Alara followed, firing the energy rifle she had scavenged. The aliens fell back under the unexpected assault, unsure how a human and its clone could act with such precision and coordination. In minutes, the path to the escape pods was clear. Alara grabbed a small control panel, activating the nearest pod. The door hissed open, lights blinking as systems came online. The clone joined her inside, standing silently at her side. As the pod launched, the aliens fired energy blasts, hitting nearby walls and sending sparks flying. The human pod streaked into space, shaking as it accelerated. Through the window, Alara watched the chaos below, the lab burning, machinery exploding, and aliens scrambling. Their escape was not just survival, it was a message. Humans cannot be controlled. Inside the pod, Alara exhaled slowly. "You're unlike anything I expected," she said to the clone. The clone simply looked back, eyes steady, almost acknowledging her words without speaking. A silent bond had formed between them. Two beings, original and copy, united against a common enemy. The human colony planet grew closer in the pod's viewfinder. They were safe for now, but both Alara and the clone knew that the aliens would not give up easily. Their intelligence, adaptability, and newfound strength would make them targets again. Yet, for the first time, humans held the advantage. Unpredictability, courage, and a unity that no alien force could replicate. As stars streaked past the windows, Alara clenched her fists, determination blazing in her eyes. "We survived the lab," she whispered. "Now we prepare. They will come back. And when they do, we will be ready." The clone stood beside her, silent but alert. Together, they had escaped, learned, and survived the first deadly test. But the real battle, the one that would define human strength, was just beginning. The escape pod cut through the void, leaving the alien laboratory behind in flames and smoke. Alara and the clone were safe for the moment, but the battle was far from over. The alien ship that had housed the lab was massive, a floating fortress bristling with weapons, energy shields, and patrol drones. And somewhere within its corridors, countless soldiers were already mobilizing to hunt them down. Alara checked the pod sensors. The pod was small, but it had enough speed and maneuverability to infiltrate the alien ship if needed. She turned to the clone, who was scanning the ship with unervingly sharp perception. Its eyes glowed faintly in the dim cockpit light, reflecting the energy of the pod systems. "We have to strike," Alara said, voice firm. "We can't just run. If we destroy their lab and escape, they'll rebuild it. We have to disrupt their systems before they can send more forces after us." The clone gave a slight nod, moving to the pod's controls with precise, efficient movements. Alara had learned quickly to trust its instincts. Together, they piloted the pod toward one of the lower maintenance bays, small openings in the ship that were rarely monitored. If they could breach the interior, even briefly, they could sow chaos from within. As the pod entered the bay, alarms inside the alien ship blared. Sensors detected the intrusion immediately. Patrol drones activated, flying toward the pod with deadly precision. Energy beams streaked past them, and sparks showered the cockpit as the pod shook under fire. Alara gritted her teeth and twisted the controls, dodging and weaving through the confined space. The clone took over the pod's targeting systems, firing pulse bursts at incoming drones. Each shot was deliberate, precise, disabling drones before they could get too close. Sparks exploded as the drones collided with walls or each other. Alara watched in awe. The clone moved faster than human reflexes, yet its aim was flawless. They landed the pod inside a maintenance hangar, doors closing silently behind them. The hangar was a cavern of alien machinery, pipes snaking along the ceiling, and energy conduits humming with power. Patrol droids were already approaching, their glowing eyes scanning for intruders. The clone jumped from the pod, landing with barely a sound, and immediately began dismantling nearby machinery to create obstacles. Alara followed, firing a plasma rifle she had scavenged from the destroyed lab. Each shot disabled a droid, sparks flying as circuits shorted. The clone moved ahead, knocking out 2 droids at once with inhuman strength. Every move was calculated, every action precise. It was clear the clone was learning, adapting faster than any alien intelligence could predict. The 2 humans advanced deeper into the ship, reaching a central control area. Panels and consoles lined the walls, showing energy flows, weapon systems, and surveillance feeds. Alara quickly scanned the displays. The ship's power grid was vulnerable. If they could overload it, entire sections would go offline, causing chaos and giving them time to escape. The clone acted without hesitation, connecting to the control panels with hands and devices it had never seen before. Sparks flew, energy pulses surged, and alarms screamed louder as systems began to overload. Security drones swarmed toward them, but the humans used debris, energy shields, and traps to slow their advance. Alara noticed the alien leaders on a nearby observation deck, shouting orders in their alien language. They were desperate, their calm facade gone. She realized they underestimated humans, not just her but the clone. They had not counted on unpredictability, resourcefulness, and courage combined. Energy surges rippled through the ship. Panels melted, lights flickered, and corridors shook as systems failed. The clone moved to the main reactor control, striking switches and releasing energy pulses. Sparks flew in arcs across the room, and alarms reached a deafening pitch. Alara realized that even a short delay could cripple the alien fleet if executed correctly. The aliens tried to regroup, sending elite squads down the central elevators. The clone intercepted them, using speed and strength to throw droids into walls and disable patrols. Alara covered its flanks, blasting energy beams with deadly accuracy. Every corner of the ship seemed to tremble under the chaos they created. Finally, the clone accessed the main bridge's control feeds, revealing navigation systems and communications. Alara saw an opportunity. If they could cut communications, the alien ship would be effectively blind, unable to coordinate reinforcements for hours. The clone twisted panels, rerouted power, and finally disabled communications with a brilliant flash of energy. The ship's crew panicked, alarms screaming, as control screens went dark. Alara and the clone paused, catching their breath amidst the smoke and chaos. The ship was still operational, but systems were failing, drones were disabled, and alien soldiers were in disarray. They had turned the alien fortress into a war zone, proving that humans, clever, adaptive, and fearless, could dominate even the most advanced technology. Through a viewport, Alara saw the destroyed lab below, flickering with fire and sparks. The clone moved to stand beside her, silent but alert. There was a new understanding between them, a bond of survival, intelligence, and shared purpose. Together, they had turned the tables. Alara, turned to the clone. "We've made our point," she said, voice steady. "But the fight isn't over. They'll rebuild, and they'll come for us again." The clone simply looked back, eyes glowing with quiet determination. It did not need words. They would fight, adapt, and survive together. The humans had begun a new phase in the battle against the aliens, a battle that would test their courage, intelligence, and unity like never before. As they moved deeper into the ship, preparing for the next wave of challenges, Alara knew one thing clearly. Humans were no longer the prey. They were a force the aliens could not control, a power that even advanced technology could not predict. And the chaos they had unleashed was only the beginning. The alien ship trembled under the chaos that Alara and the clone had unleashed. Fires smoldered in maintenance bays, sparks rained from broken conduits, and alarm sirens echoed endlessly through the corridors. The humans moved carefully, knowing that every wrong step could mean death, but they had also learned that fear was now their ally, an energy they could harness to survive. Alara led the way toward the observation deck, where alien leaders monitored the destruction. Her heart pounded, not with fear, but with determination. She had to understand the clone, to ensure it would fight alongside her rather than turning against them. The clone walked silently beside her, every movement deliberate, every glance assessing the environment. Its presence was both comforting and terrifying. It was her reflection, and yet something far stronger, far faster, and far more dangerous. "Stay close," Alara whispered, ducking behind a destroyed console as a patrol droid passed. Sparks arced from the wreckage, illuminating her face. "We're close. We need to confront them." The observation deck was a wide chamber, lined with glass walls overlooking the alien command hub. Inside, the leaders barked orders, waving appendages and shouting in their alien language. Screens displayed the chaos below, with maintenance corridors collapsing and patrols being destroyed. They looked confident for a moment, but then realized that the humans were no ordinary intruders. Alara stepped into the chamber, and the clone followed. The alien leaders froze, their elongated heads tilting as they registered the humans standing before them. Energy weapons rose in unison, but the humans did not flinch. The clone's eyes glowed faintly, and for the first time, the alien saw intelligence, not just instinct, not just aggression, but something far deeper. One of the alien leaders spoke, its voice sharp and commanding. "You are not supposed to survive. You are copies, experiments. You have no rights here." Alara stepped forward, her voice firm and steady. "We are not experiments. We are humans, and we survive because we fight, adapt, and refuse to be controlled." The clone mirrored her stance, standing beside her like a shadow that could strike at any moment. The aliens hesitated, unsure how to respond. This was no mindless attack. This was intelligence, strategy, and determination combined. Suddenly, one of the alien leaders attempted to activate a control panel to deploy reinforcements. The clone acted in a blink, moving within human speed to strike the console. Sparks flew as circuits fried, screens exploded, and the leader stumbled back, shocked by the speed and strength of its own creation. Alara realized then that the clone was learning, not just reacting. It was observing, calculating, and choosing its actions based on understanding rather than mere instinct. This was more than a copy. It was the evolution of human adaptability, enhanced beyond what even the aliens could predict. The aliens regrouped, sending a squad of elite droids to confront the intruders. Energy weapons glowed, ready to fire, but the humans were ready. The clone moved first, using precise strikes to disable 2 droids instantly. Alara followed, her scavenged rifle firing in rhythm with the clone's attacks. Sparks flew, metal crunched, and the chamber shook as combat erupted. Through the fight, Alara noticed something remarkable. The clone hesitated for a fraction of a second when an alien attempted to strike her, deflecting the attack rather than harming her. It was learning empathy, or at least a sense of alliance. For the first time, the humans had created a being that combined intelligence, strength, and loyalty in a way no alien technology could fully control. The alien leaders panicked, realizing that their creation, the clone, was no longer a tool. It was a new form of human force, unpredictable and unstoppable. Screens flickered, systems malfunctioned, and the energy surges from below caused sparks to rain from the ceiling. The humans had turned the ship's own complexity against it. Alara moved closer to the clone, whispering, "You understand, don't you? We fight together. We survive together. And we are human." The clone's eyes glowed brighter, as if acknowledging her words. It moved forward, creating a barrier of strength and destruction between the humans and the alien leaders. The aliens tried to fire again, but the clone blocked every shot, deflecting beams with unnatural precision. For the first time, the humans and the clone had true control. Alara realized that intelligence, courage, and adaptability, core human traits, were more powerful than any alien weapon. Their bond with the clone symbolized the unexpected strength that humanity could bring to any situation, no matter how advanced the enemy. Finally, the alien leaders backed down, retreating to hidden compartments, unsure how to respond. The humans stood tall, side by side with the clone. The ship was still alive, but the tide had shifted. Humans were no longer prey. They were a force the aliens could not predict or dominate. Alara turned to the clone. "We've shown them what humans can do, but this is only the beginning. They will come back stronger. And when they do, we'll be ready." The clone tilted its head, a silent agreement passing between them. Together, they had revealed the true power of humanity, adaptability, resilience, and intelligence that no alien could replicate. The observation deck shook again as energy surges from below continued to disrupt the ship, but the humans were calm, focused, and ready. Alara looked out the viewport at the stars beyond. The chaos they had created was not destruction for its own sake. It was a message. Humans would not be controlled, copied, or destroyed. They were survivors, fighters, and innovators. And now, with the clone by her side, they had shown the galaxy that humanity's true power was intelligence, courage, and the will to survive against any odds. The alien ship groaned and shuddered as chaos consumed its corridors. Sparks flew from broken machinery, and the flickering lights cast eerie shadows along the walls. Alara and the clone moved quickly, weaving through the wreckage with purpose. They had destabilized the ship's systems and sent the alien leaders into panic, but their mission was far from over. The escape pods were their next target, and reaching them would mean navigating corridors filled with elite guards and deadly traps. "Stay close," Alara whispered. Her voice was calm but firm. "We can't afford mistakes now." The clone nodded, its movements precise and silent. Together, they had become a force the aliens could not predict, combining intelligence, agility, and strength in perfect harmony. As they advanced, patrol droids emerged from the shadows, weapons glowing. The clone struck first, its speed unmatched. A single blow sent one droid flying into a wall, circuits sparking as it collapsed. Alara followed, firing her plasma rifle with deadly accuracy, disabling two more before they could react. Sparks showered the corridor as the humans fought their way forward, leaving chaos in their wake. The ship's energy systems were unstable. Alara noticed panels flickering and conduits overheating. She realized that their earlier sabotage had created temporary advantages. Drones and guards were distracted by power surges, giving them a window to move through the ship. But the aliens were regrouping, sending reinforcements from the lower decks. "Keep moving," Alara urged. They sprinted down narrow corridors, dodging energy blasts and leaping over broken machinery. The clone cleared obstacles with ease, smashing barriers and creating paths for Alara to follow. Every step brought them closer to the escape pods, but the aliens were relentless. In one junction, a squad of elite alien soldiers blocked their way. Their weapons glowed with lethal energy, and their armor reflected the flashing lights of the damaged ship. Alara and the clone paused, calculating the best strategy. The clone moved first, leaping toward the nearest soldier with a speed that blurred the eye. It struck with perfect precision, sending the soldier crashing into a wall. Alara fired her plasma rifle, taking out two more before they could respond. The remaining soldiers hesitated, unsure how to respond to this unexpected coordination between the human and the clone. The corridor was a storm of sparks, smoke, and debris, but Alara's mind was sharp. "We're almost there," she whispered. "Just a little further." Finally, they reached the escape pod bay. Rows of small, sleek pods sat ready for emergency evacuation, lights blinking as systems powered up. The aliens were close behind, and energy blasts illuminated the corridor as reinforcements arrived. Alara and the clone ducked behind crates, quickly assessing their options. There was no time to waste. The clone acted first, smashing a nearby turret with a single precise strike. Sparks flew as circuits fried, disabling the weapon permanently. Alara fired at the approaching soldiers, using every bit of cover she could find. Together, they carved a path to the nearest pod. Alara activated the pod's control panel, feeling a surge of relief as systems came online. The hatch hissed open, and the pod's engines powered up. She glanced at the clone, who stood silently beside her, eyes scanning for any remaining threats. A final wave of soldiers charged, but the humans were ready. The clone leaped forward, knocking several aside, while Alara fired with deadly accuracy. The pod doors closed just as the last of the alien reinforcements reached them. Energy blasts struck the exterior, sending sparks showering across the hull. The pod shuddered violently as it lifted off, rocketing toward the stars. Inside, Alara and the clone caught their breath, adrenaline still pumping through their veins. Through the viewport, Alara watched the alien ship below. Fires raged, corridors collapsed, and alarms screamed in vain. Their sabotage had worked perfectly. The ship was crippled, and the humans had survived against overwhelming odds. For the first time, Alara allowed herself a small smile. "You were incredible," she said to the clone. "I didn't think anyone, or anything, could handle that." The clone tilted its head, acknowledging her words without speaking. Their bond had grown stronger with every step, every fight, every shared decision. The pod surged through space, stars streaking past as it accelerated toward the human colony planet. Alara knew the aliens would not give up easily. They would rebuild, regroup, and attempt to reclaim what they had lost. But humans were different, adaptable, clever, and resilient. They could survive even the most calculated alien strategies. The clone observed the ship's distant silhouette, analyzing its systems even as they fled. Alara realized that this creature, a copy of herself, was more than just a clone. It was a new type of human evolution, enhanced by alien technology but driven by human determination. Together, they represented the unpredictability and strength that no alien could control. Alara's eyes fixed on the colony planet below, growing larger in the pod's viewfinder. They were close to safety, but she knew their fight was far from over. The aliens would return, but humans had proven that survival was only the beginning. Intelligence, courage, and unity were humanity's weapons, and they were just getting started. She turned to the clone. "We've survived this battle," she said softly, "but the war is only beginning, and when they come back, we'll be ready." The clone looked at her, silent and resolute, its eyes reflecting the stars beyond. Together, they had ignited a rebellion, not just against the aliens' control, but against the idea that humans could be subdued. They had fought, adapted, and survived. And humanity's spirit, now embodied in both woman and clone, had proven unstoppable. As the escape pod surged into the void, leaving the burning alien ship behind, Alara knew one truth clearly. Humans were not just survivors. They were a force the universe had to respect. And with the clone by her side, they had begun a new chapter in that fight. The escape pod raced through the void, leaving the burning alien ship behind. Sparks and smoke still rose from its hull, but Alara and the clone were safe for now. Below, the human colony planet glowed like a jewel in the darkness, a symbol of survival and hope. But safety was only temporary. The aliens would return. They always returned. Alara wiped sweat and grime from her face, looking at the clone beside her. Its eyes glowed faintly in the pod's dim light, scanning the stars and systems with unerring precision. For the first time, Alara realized the full significance of what they had created. The clone was not just a copy of herself. It was something greater, a being that combined human ingenuity, courage, and adaptability with abilities beyond ordinary humans. "We've done the impossible," she whispered, voice trembling with awe. "We survived. We fought back. And we've shown them they cannot control us." The clone tilted its head, almost as if acknowledging her words. There was no need for speech. They both understood the truth. Humans were a force unlike any other in the galaxy. The escape pod entered the planet's upper atmosphere, shaking as it passed through turbulent winds. Below, the colony had fortified its defenses in anticipation of alien attacks. Alara realized they would have to warn the humans, prepare them for the inevitable return of their enemies. But first, they needed to land safely. The clone moved to assist with the pod's landing controls, its hands precise and quick. The pod descended smoothly, touching down on a reinforced landing pad. Alara exhaled a sigh of relief as the engines powered down. For the first time in hours, they were truly safe. As the pod doors opened, alarms on the colony's perimeter rang out. Humans and automated defense systems activated, scanning for threats. Alara and the clone emerged from the pod, their presence commanding attention. Guards lowered their weapons, recognizing Alara and, curiously, the clone. Whispers spread quickly through the colony. A human and her copy, alive, victorious, and unbroken. Alara raised her hand, signaling calm. "We've come back to warn you," she said. Her voice carried over the landing pad, steady and strong. "The aliens we face are ruthless. They try to capture and control us. But we fought and we survived. And we've learned something important. They cannot predict us. They cannot control the human spirit." The colony leaders gathered, awe and curiosity in their eyes. "She is a clone?" one of them asked, disbelief in their voice. Alara nodded. "Yes, and she fought alongside me. Together, we proved that even when they try to copy humanity, they cannot replicate our courage, our intelligence, or our adaptability." The clone stepped forward, its eyes glowing softly. It did not speak, but its presence alone was a statement, a living testament to human ingenuity and strength. The colony's people realized that humans had found a new edge, a weapon that no alien technology could predict or contain. Alara and the clone spent hours explaining what had happened on the alien ship, how the lab had been destroyed, how systems had been sabotaged, and how the clone had evolved beyond the aliens' expectations. The colony listened, eyes wide with fear and fascination. They understood the threat, but they also understood the new hope that Alara and the clone represented. By the evening, the colony had mobilized. Defense systems were reinforced, patrols were doubled, and strategies were reviewed. Alara walked beside the clone, watching as humans prepared for the inevitable. The air was tense, but it was also filled with determination. They had survived, yes, but they had also learned, adapted, and grown stronger. As night fell, stars glittering above, Alara looked out across the colony. Fires of celebration mixed with preparations for defense. Humans had endured impossible odds, and they had survived. They had been tested, and they had not broken. The clone stood silently beside her, a reflection of humanity's resilience. Alara placed a hand on its shoulder. "This is only the beginning," she said softly. "They will come back, but we will be ready. Together, we are stronger than anything they can throw at us." The first alien ship had fallen, and the humans had survived. The colony now stood as a stronghold, a testament to humanity's courage and ingenuity. They had turned despair into power, fear into determination, and survival into a rebellion. Alara knew that the universe was vast, dangerous, and unpredictable. But she also knew something else. Humans, when pushed to the edge, could rise above any threat. And with allies like the clone by their side, No enemy, no matter how advanced, could crush the human spirit. The stars stretched endlessly above the colony, and for the first time in a long time, Illyra felt hope. Not just for herself or for the clone, but for all humanity. The future was uncertain, the threats were real, but the humans had proven one thing beyond doubt. They would survive, fight, and rise, no matter what the universe threw at them. The colony shone like a beacon in the darkness, a symbol of defiance and strength. And as Illyra and the clone prepared to lead humanity into the next battle, one truth echoed clearly in their minds. Humans were no longer prey. They were a force to be reckoned with, and the universe would never forget it.